Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we've been talking about the conduct of the last concluded election. I mean, the gubernatorial and of course the state assembly elections. And so much have been discussed here, ranging from the irregularities to the violence and of course, voter suppression and voter apathy, which led to low turnout at the last concluded election. Of course, we have our guest here in the person of Mr. Dakbo Adaramewa, spokesperson for Gbadebo Revival of the Labour Party. And right about now, to really create a balance, to strike a balance in this conversation, we have a guest joining us right here in the studio. He is Mr. Boluwaje Ujimosun, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right, now let's talk about the irregularities, because of course Mr. Dakbo has given us his own analysis as regards what they observed at the conduct of elections. So what's your view on that? Was it fair enough? If not, what were those irregularities?
Okay, basically for the elections that was conducted last Saturday for gubernatorials in Lagos, we all observed a lot of loopholes that I noticed as an electorate. And initially, INEC told us they were going to upload results from each polling unit. I didn't see that.
What locations were you?
I voted around Ojodubaga axis.
Okay.
Very close to Badamosi.
Okay.
And a lot of irregularities, if I start saying it, I don't think I'm going to leave this studio.
So what were those very outstanding irregularities?
The outstanding irregularities I saw was ethnic profiling. A lot of people that are non-Yorubas were told they can't cast their ballots.
Do you have them on, hard copy?
If I can get them on copies for you probably much later so that you guys can play it. It's so obvious that a particular tribe was disenfranchised and it's so uncalled for in the 21st century.
Were they law enforcement agents?
They were law enforcement
agencies.
agencies.
Their response?
They were there and they were just lukewarm and watching. It's so important. I need to stress this. MC Oluomo, the Lagos State Parks chairman, uttered some statements few days back that, oh, Iyachukudi, if you're not voting for me, stay at home.
But
I mean,
the Lagos State government also, through other authorities, said that video is being investigated. So it's not enough for you to authenticate right here that it emanated from MC Oluomo. So please, let's be very mindful of what we say, because that might be libelous, please.
Okay. So
you can go ahead.
But basically, what I'm saying is this: with what played out on Saturday against a particular tribe, it was uncalled for. It's so obvious they are aware that, okay, if these people come out and actually vote, there could be a paradigm shift in Lagos State. And that's exactly where I'm going. So for them to forestall that, I think it was their Machiavellian tactics. That's what I feel. But in a nutshell, that election was the most horrendous I have seen since 1999, that we've resumed our Fourth Republic. I must say that. I'm not happy with that. I am an electorate. I was not able to cast my vote.
Why?
For the fact that I am also a Yoruba person.
You were there.
I was there.
So why didn't you cast your vote?
I was wondering how I'm going to allow other guys, because when I spoke my language, they got that, oh, this is a Yoruba man, probably will vote for us, APC. But I was going to shock them. But at a point, I noticed they were having instruments on their hands, canes, flogging people, and they were like, okay, in fact, at a point, they locked a gate. They start profiling you. You are from where? Who do you want to vote for? You cannot come in. So I was discombobulated.
I have to put in here. But the election in your polling, was it done in an estate or in an open space?
In an open space, but inside a street. But they have a gate that could bar anybody from coming in. So I was in because I spoke the language.
When
so
you
they allowed
to the
me
gate, they ask you what language you speak.
I spoke my language. I didn't speak lingua franca.
Okay.
So as soon as I spoke my mother tongue, they allowed me in. Oh, this is one of us.
So why didn't you now cast your ballot when you were allowed in?
I was about accredited, but I saw other potential mindsetters like me that, oh, we're going to cast our vote for Gbadebo or Labour Party. Let me just eat the bull's high. But at the point I noticed the profiling was, I was carried away like, what is going on here? And if I had resisted, I'm probably, okay, let me come and talk to these people, allow these people in, they will feel, oh, I think you are one of the Omoalis, because they call us Omoalis, and I'm laughing.
So that's on you anyway, for you not to have been able to cast your ballot
because
you were allowed in.
Because I was bamboozled with what I saw in the polling unit with law enforcement agencies. It's so ludicrous. In 2023, I have seen some videos right now, people are mutilating their international passports and PVCs. Democracy is dead. if care is not taken.
Now, aside from the fact that they were doing ethnic profiling, now what were other irregularities that you observed in terms of the functionalities of that particular Beavers machine? Were you able to observe where results were uploaded, or was result not uploaded? What were the issues, you know, associating with such?
The NYC members, they were quite competent. The Beavers didn't malfunction. People were accredited. I didn't observe anything. But what I noticed was there was this street urchins.
Was results uploaded?
Result was not. They were not uploaded.
Why?
At a point when the ethnic profiling became so much, I got my temperament changed and I had to leave, because if I had stayed, I'm sure I won't be here alive.
That means that you are not sure because you left the scene.
I left, yes, but I'm sure it was not uploaded, because I gathered later, you know, added and found out around, because it's not far from, there's a Redeemed church very close to that, so I did my findings. It was not uploaded, and at some point I was like, what is going on here? So it was all about a particular tribe must be disenfranchised for us to win elections, and I'm like, it shouldn't be. It's uncalled for. Right now the census is fast approaching. Now you're going to count them as census. Then I think they should leave and don't count them. That's what I feel. That election of Saturday was shambolic on the part of APC government. They need to do something about doing elections. They're expecting legitimacy. It doesn't have any legitimacy. Now, I'm sure they don't mean it.
Now let's talk about voter turnout, because we realized that in the presidential election, you know, people came out with the confidence that INEC gave, that this
the assurances we had from Professor Mahmoud Yakub.
Of course.
Yes.
Now, looking at what was experienced at the gubernatorial election, what were some of the reasons that, you know, led to the low?
It's so seamless. Now, in the first instance, prior to the presidential election of February 17th or 25th rather. Now, what I noticed is a lot of youths registered and got their PVCs, about close to 12.67 million. It has never happened in the history of this country. They got their PVCs and they knew who they wanted as their president. In fact, let me just hit the bullseye. They were going to vote Peter Obi of Labour Party. There was no hiding place for a strange fish. But why they came out was that, okay, hopefully we'll have a new president, a new paradigm shift, something different from the usual PDP and APC that have messed up the politics for 24 years, for crying out loud. 24 years. PDP spent 16 years. There was nothing to show for it. APC 8 years. Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. What are we talking about? We need a fresh hand. And for me, I looked at Labour Party's candidate, it's Anthony from Anambra State. He did so well in Anambra.
But when you say
so what I'm saying in essence is, people came out, but peradventure when we started seeing the results from almighty INEC, we got to discover lots of irregularities in so many states. So I think that discouraged a lot of people from, oh, why should I come out for the gubernatorials when I know the elections will be rigged by the ruling party?
But of course, they
was rigged.
They assured us that there were so many improvements that were made before that Saturday election.
There were no improvements
when it comes to the configuration.
I didn't see any improvements. It was all shambolic and ludicrous.
It was just in your polling unit, so it's not enough to just.
A lot of videos have gone viral. I'm sure they've seen it. What are we talking about? I saw Badibo yesterday analyzing some stuff. How a result sheet was Tipex. I saw it. It's obvious, and I'm sure. I'm just praying that our judicial arm of government should do the needful. The irregularities are there for everybody to see. It's so obvious and lucid. This is not an election. Look at how people are mutilating their international passports. That's gone. I'm sure they've seen that. I've seen people destroy their PVCs. The painful aspect is that our youths that have overcome voter apathy will now go back to their cocoon shell again. They won't come in 2027. I can assure you. Why should I come? I've seen a lot of people now, they're planning to leave the country. Oh, stay in your country and sort out yourself. I mean, it's uncalled for. This is not an election. It's a charade.
Now, I'm going to put you on a pause mode and fall back on our guest, Mr. Dakpo. Now, from the conduct of the election, what were some of the lessons you learned, especially on the part of electorate, for those who are coming, you know, to take a shot at that level for the first time, and those who are going into the office as, you know, elected candidates?
I would say the greatest lesson I learned, the biggest source of inspiration for me
as an electorate
was watching Lagosians defend their vote, watching people fight back and say no. Watching people stand by the ballot book and say no. Whether or not the police help us, we will defend our rights to vote as guarded under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is a right given to them, and the Constitution also gives them a right to defend their vote, to defend their safety and their well-being. The greatest source of inspiration for me was watching those people stand up and say enough is enough. Otoge. And I hope that Lagosians never lose that and understand that when you look at it, the people who stood up, defended their vote, are okay today, many of them, and their votes counted.
Even when their vote never counted, especially at the
in
end
those
of the
particular
result?
in those particular units, in those particular wards where the people stood together and said enough is enough. These thugs were coming in their twos, maximum in their fours, maybe in their fives. The electorate in these polling units were in their hundreds, and the people stood up and said enough is enough. It brought a tear to my eye that Nigerians have gotten to the point where they've said enough is enough. And I want to encourage everybody that they continue in that same vein, because like his alleged excellency said, power is not served a la carte, and we the people have the power. And it's about time we remind those who have mistaken their overt exercise of brutishness as legitimacy or evidence that they are actually powerful. It's time for us to remind them that we the people are the power in this country, that there is no such thing as structure. The structure is us, every one of us going there, thumbprinting and standing by to make sure that nobody comes to take away from us what God has given to us, what our ancestors fought and died for, to give us a country of our own, a free people that can ascribe to a better life. People should never forget that.
So how about for new entrants?
New entrants?
Yeah.
Political actors?
Yes.
Well, I think the greatest lesson, that I hope they learn is that we don't have to stoop down to their level to win. I genuinely hope that any new political actor does not take this as a sign that, okay, seeing as they are bringing out violence, maybe that's what me too I need to bring out. Because there are some people that will say, okay, well, you've shown us that is, part of the game, so why don't we bring back our own? I will encourage them that they should not look at it that way. They should understand that, like the Labour Party did, we stood up, we said enough is enough. We did not reduce ourselves to meting out violence where we met it. We only defended our vote, which is the most beautiful thing that we can do. And I would encourage anybody who opposes the tyranny that the APC and Babajide Sanwo-Olu has brought to this state.
Please, let's not mention him. Let it not look like we are misinforming people about what is not, because they have not said that they are tyrants. They have not said that they are in any way supporting whatever violence, activities that are going on, so that we don't get...
No, I understand, but their silence speaks volumes. Do you understand? No, I would hope that people recognize that enough is enough. We have a right to vote. Democracy is a beautiful thing. We should have free and fair elections. If we don't want you, it's okay. Come back and try again in 4 years. Do you understand? It's not the end of the world. It shouldn't be a do or die affair. If the people say enough, well, step aside. Go and get yourself together and come back in 4 years and try again. And if we still say no, come back in another 4 years. That is how democracies work. It's not a do or die affair. We don't have to spill blood over this thing. And the Labour Party embodies that. We didn't reduce ourselves to that. Mr. Gbadebo Road clearly has stood against violence all his life.
So what can you talk about Godfatherism, especially with what we've seen in the last election?
We have seen that glimmers of hope that it can end. It's a tough road ahead, but it can end. We just need to not let anybody... See, Lagosians, we are beautiful people. We lived next to our Igbo brothers, our Hausa brothers for a long, long time now. Don't let anybody just wake up one day and start telling you that Igbo man is your enemy. He never was. It's not, there's no Igbo people ascribing for the governorship of Lagos State. This was a battle between good and evil, between an indigene of Lagos State with a deputy who is of a royal descent from Ikorodu against the people who have for so long impoverished Lagosians. It was never about tribe, and Lagosians should not let themselves be reduced to that level. We get along perfectly in good times. We should get along perfectly in elections. We should vote freely and go about our lives. There's no war.
What's your reaction as regards what he had just said, especially as an electorate, and of course to those who are new entrants and those who are already there and seeking re-election?
Yeah, basically for electorates, like I said earlier on, a trajectory has been diminished to the extent that youths really wanted to come and show the stuff they have by getting their PVCs. That's never happened. Even INEC testified that, oh, a lot of youths came in, registered, got their PVCs. But I think, by and large, yes, there could be some discouragement somewhere along the line. Oh, they didn't upload results. Oh, why should I come out and vote? Voter party, because right now I'm having a phobia for that by 2027. But I just hope we need to gather ourselves back that, oh, let's keep stressing enough is enough. And fine, like the other guest has said, I think I want to buy his idea that, oh, new entrants, don't reduce yourself to their level. Don't let us reciprocate violence for violence. We should still follow the rules. But I just hope one day INEC will really sit up and do the needful. The onus lies, the buck stops on INEC's table. And our law enforcement agency needs a new reorientation, that in a polling unit, you are entitled to do a lot of security checks. So a lot of things, but I'm thinking with this new generation of voters, the 12.9 million I'm talking to right now this morning, they shouldn't be discouraged. There's a glimmer of hope somewhere. And by 2027, before then, I'm sure a lot of paradigms will come up.
Mr. Dakpo talked, something about this ethnic profiling, which of course led to the level of violence that were meted out on Lagosians on Saturday. There is this narration or narrative out there that the Igbos have this agenda of trying to, take Lagos away from the Lagosians, perhaps trying to buy their lands and all of that. Could that be the reason for that ethnic profiling, or what actually is the issue?
For me, like I said, I am from the southwest, from Ekiti State, for crying out loud. So, but the bottom line is this. Like Mr. Dapo said a few minutes ago, we've lived together for so long. Now, a glimpse to that kind of picture. The Yorubas sold lands to the Igbos, isn't it? Built lands, got rents, paid tax.
Something they can't do, like they said, something they can't do in the East.
Anambra. But the bottom line is this. When it was now time that they noticed that there could be a change, and they saw it coming, they got an idea from the presidential election. Labour Party winning in Lagos, it was a bad omen for them. So they want to continue their impoverishment of Lagosians. They knew what was going to happen. And I think that was why they had to come up with. In fact, I had some cases. I was just coming from the office. Somebody was selling money in some areas around the Sherry and all over. They got canes to flog potential around the Sherry Grammar School and all those stuff. I was just confirming this morning. They were flogged. Some of my colleagues in the office, they had to go back. So the bottom line of this ethnic profiling is this. They assume that the Igbos want to hijack Lagos via Gbadebo. It's not so. It's not. This is democracy. It's a government, it's a representative government. Like he said, Mr. Dapo said, if you are not wanted, you can come back in the next 4 years.
What's your view about communication, especially when you're coming to govern a state, a metropolitan state
like
Lagos, and you cannot be able to communicate effectively to people at the grassroots level, especially to aged ones who might not be lettered? Don't you think that also has an impact? Negative one?
For communication, I think there's no problem with communication.
But
I think the problem has got to do with mindset.
Some people have the opinion that that's a total turn-off for them when you cannot speak Yoruba fluently.
Okay, you're talking of the dialect.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes, but the bottom line is, it's not even the issue of speaking dialect. The Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, as amended, has a right of protects the right of every Nigerian. You can cast your ballot anywhere within the ambit of Nigeria.
No, I'm talking about for elective candidates.
Candidates, okay.
Yeah, people who are vying for position of office. Like, take for instance, Lagos. You want to govern a state like Lagos, yet you do not understand that people in Lagos, the larger number of people in Lagos speak Yoruba, and you cannot communicate effectively with them. People feel that to them it's a turn-off. You don't think that's also an important issue?
I think that idea was flying, and I think I noticed people were saying,
so don't you think that's also an issue?
Cannot speak Yoruba, and
to some people I met yesterday, they said that's a turn off for them. Don't you think it's also important?
It's baseless.
Imagine your kid,
It's
for
baseless.
instance, imagine your kid whom you grew up with, you know, you trained and could not be able to communicate effectively.
My mother's son.
How proud would you be of that son or daughter of yours? Don't you think that's also an issue when it comes to governance?
For that's within the family.
And you claim to be a son of the soil?
That's within the family. That can be dealt with. I can get a tutorial teacher for him to do that. But when you're talking of governance, governance surpasses dialect. It's what you've had here that you can offer the masses.
But when the people feel it's a total turn off.
Lagos needs an architect that has vision. All these people you see at Alausa are just there to share the money. It's a conduit pipe. I can as well tell you that Alpha Beta Consulting makes over 5 billion naira money from Lagos State government. We all know the owner of Alpha Beta Consulting. LCC, Lekki Concession Company, that collects Toll Plaza, is owned by one of the son of the so-called president-elect. The Yaloja, we know what's going on. So it's all a family thing. I have friends in Lagos State. Last step, I can start mentioning names if you want me to. I know their lives. I see how they live. It all comes down to sharing the loot. And we want the paradigm shift, and they don't want it to change. That's what is going on. If I can assure you, if there had been a free and fair election, I can tell you, APC will not smell Alausa in the next 24 years. What the new obedience are planning. They saw it coming. It's so obvious. So for the issue of dialect, oh, we can't speak. Look at it. It's not an issue. We want capacity, competence, and character. And he has shown it. The 40-year-old. We need somebody vibrant. I give you an instance. Ambode was one of my most favorite Lagos State governors. He's an APC guy. Look at what he did. Sometimes I look at his project and I look back. This guy did well, like Fashola. In 3-4 years, he covered Fashola's tracks.
They were saying that was.
But because of godfatherism,
that
he's
continuing.
Godfatherism. Look at where we are today. Look at Lagos. Everywhere is
Anyway,
taking.
we are pressed for time. What's your final word before we wrap up the show?
My final word is I want to encourage Rhodes Vivo Badebo to go to the election tribunal and prove his case of rigging, intimidation, voter, whatever he can use, and get his mandate.
What if he doesn't get justice?
I hope he will get justice because I trust Israel as the last hope of the common man.
So what's your outlook as we move on?
As we move on, I am looking forward to a new paradigm shift. We need a new regime, a new set of leaders, a new set of hope. Because right now, as the poverty capital of the world, I can assure you, with this APC government, we're heading nowhere. And I think I must confess, it is rest in peace democracy if nothing is done by the judiciary. Rest in peace to democracy.
Let's get your final words before we wrap up this show.
I think the final words would be to remind Lagosians that as somebody who works closely with Gbadebo, somebody in the inner situation room that's working, Mr. Gbadebo has done his best to surround himself with intelligent, forward-thinking men, many of them who are strong Yoruba people. And he has a vision for a new Lagos. And by God's grace, we will achieve that vision. I would also like to extend to those who have, attempted to snatch this state by force, and let them know that the Labour Party is not going anywhere. We are here to stay, and we will birth a new Lagos. Whether the courts deliver that justice for us, or whether we have to wait another 4 years, we are not going anywhere.
Thank you so much.
And encourage our supporters.
That's a fine place to live. We'll bet Lagos. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making the time with us. Mr. Dakbo Adaramewa, spokesperson for Gbadebo Revival of the Labour Party, and of course we have Mr. Boluwaji Ujimusun, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Good to be here.
All right, so that's the much we'll be having with you on this segment. And of course, right after this will be our personal finance with our expert, Mr. Charles Fakroha. We'll be right back after this timer. Please don't go nowhere.